Well, hey there. This is Zeke. I'm out in my backyard, and the other day President Biden gave a speech, and it was a real doozy. He started the speech out basically saying that America is much better off today than the day he took office. And I thought to myself, really? Because from where I sit, that's not the case at all. So I put together a list off the top of my head. Now, keep in mind, mainstream media doesn't report on this stuff much at all. Some of it, not at all. But I made a list of things that have happened since he took office. And I'll start out with energy independence. On the day he took office, America was an energy independent nation, meaning we were producing more oil and natural gas than we need to run our own economy. And so we were exporting it to other countries. Now, your feelings about oil and natural gas, they mean nothing to me, because we need it in order to keep our standard of living. And until something better comes along, we're going to be stuck with it. But because of actions that he took on day one and other actions that he's taken since, we're no longer energy independent. And not long ago, he was basically begging the OPEC nations to increase their production. Why? Because gas prices are going up, energy prices are going up. An example is at the pump, gasoline is nearly double the price that it was when he took office. I don't think that's good for America. The next one, our border with Mexico. It was relatively quiet. There were relatively few people sneaking across our border, coming into our country illegally. And because of the Remain in Mexico policy that the Trump administration had put in place, people were not being allowed into our country to go wherever they want until, 2 or 3 years later, they could get some sort of a hearing as to their claims of asylum, which would, in the vast majority of cases, be turned down anyway. And so people stopped coming. But since Biden took over and he's changed a lot of policies, he ended the Remain in place, or the Remain in Mexico policy. Now we've got anywhere from 100 to 200,000 people coming across our border into our country from all over the world illegally every month. And the federal government's just putting them on buses and planes and trains and sending them all around the country. And by the way, none of these people, or very few of these people, are being tested for COVID-19. None of them are being required to get a vaccine. None of them. Let's talk about federal spending. So he's already doubled the deficit spending, which was already way too high. And now he wants to add another 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 trillion dollars on top of that. That's not good. Why? Because basically that money would have to just be printed out of thin air by the Federal Reserve. You know what that does? It makes every dollar in your bank account or your wallet worth less. And that's why we're seeing record inflation right now. Maybe not record, but it's higher than it's been in over 20 years. So what does that do? Well, that hurts the poorest in our country the most. But it hurts all of us, because now we've got less, we have to spend more just on the things that we need in order to run our daily lives. Well, let's see. Businesses are trying to get back and recover from this COVID-19 crap. They're trying to get back to running their businesses, and they're trying to hire people in order to do that. There's over 10 million open jobs in our country right now, and business owners are saying that they can't get people to come back to work. Well, part of that is because unemployment benefits have been extended far beyond what they would normally be allowed in the states. And then on top of that, the federal government is kicking in extra money every month. And fortunately, governors in many states have stopped doing this, but many states are still sending that along to these recipients of unemployment. And so the people are saying, you know, hey, I'm living okay on unemployment. Why should I go back to work? Well, I wish they would realize that working and earning your way brings dignity to your life. Receiving quote unquote free money does not. So I'd like to encourage those people to go ahead and take those open jobs. Then let's go to the Middle East, Afghanistan specifically. Basically, he surrendered to the Taliban and cut and ran. That wasn't a withdrawal. That it was a disgrace. Everything that could be done wrong was done wrong, and we left Americans behind at the mercy of the Taliban. We left Afghan nationals who were helping us over the last 20 years and their families behind at the mercy of the Taliban. And those people will be killed if the Taliban has their way. As a matter of fact, that's already happening. And if they're American citizens or green card holders, the Taliban is holding them for ransom. We don't pay ransom to terrorists. And the Taliban is a terrorist organization. Right now, Secretary of State Blinken is being questioned in congressional hearings. And yesterday he said something that just, I believe I heard him actually lie to Congress, which seems to be a common thing when it comes to certain people. But he said basically that the Trump administration gave them a deadline for getting out of Afghanistan, but they didn't give them a plan. Well, I heard a man by the name of Kash Patel. I think his full first name is Kashyan or Kashun or something like that, but he goes by Kash. And he was pretty much at the top of the food chain in the DOD, top of the chain of command on the civilian side. And in that interview, he pretty much laid out all of the all of the steps that needed to happen for an orderly pullout, and all of the conditions that needed to be met by the Taliban. And yes, the Trump administration did negotiate with the Taliban, but they negotiated the terms, and they, according to Mr. Patel, they put very, very specific, very severe consequences in place and made sure the Taliban understood it, that if they tried what they did under the Biden administration, there would be very severe consequences. And Mr. Patel said they tried to give all of that plan over to the incoming administration, and the incoming administration wasn't interested and just threw it in the trash. So, Mr. Blinken, think you're lying. The other thing is, Biden insists that there was a plan and that it was followed and there was tremendous success. Anybody watching that knows it was a clusterfuck. It didn't go well at all, and it made us look horrible. And right now, I think our allies around the world are looking at us going, can we trust America? That's not a good position to be in. And then finally, in the same speech that I talked about his opening remarks, he said now that this is after months of him saying there would be no mandate at the federal level for masks or vaccines. He said he's mandating it nationwide. Anybody working for the federal government, you've got very limited time to take a vaccine, and if you don't have a job anymore. Not only that, you won't be eligible for unemployment, and you lose whatever pension you were going to have. And for the civilian side, he said any company that employs more than 100 people, they have to institute a mandate for their employees to get vaccinated. Well, let's talk about this vaccine and what he's actually doing. First of all, it's not even fully FDA approved, despite what media has been saying. It's not. Second of all, it doesn't work like normal vaccines that we've all taken in the past. For example, you take the smallpox vaccine, you're protected. You're not going to get smallpox. You take the polio vaccine, you're protected. You're not going to get polio. But these so-called vaccines are a different animal. They're fairly new technology. They're mRNA injections, messenger RNA injections. And if you take them, you're not protected, really. And we know this because there are fully vaccinated people who are still catching COVID-19. And they're still getting sick from COVID-19. And they're able to pass on COVID-19. And some people are dying from COVID-19. And Biden is saying we need to force unvaccinated people to become vaccinated in order to protect the vaccinated. Come on, really? That makes absolutely no sense at all. Yeah, apparently Joe Biden thinks he's a dictator now. This is unconstitutional and is already being fought in the courts, and he will lose. But I wonder how many people are going to be damaged. For example, there's a hospital in upstate New York where I can't remember the number of registered nurses who were working there, but they quit because they don't want to take this vaccine. And now they can't deliver babies at that particular hospital. This is just the beginning. This is going to happen in hospitals around the country. This is going to happen with police departments, fire departments. It's even happening with the Washington State ferries right now, where they're not going to be able to fully staff the boats, so the boats won't sail, and so people are going to be stuck where they're at. None of this is good, and there's more. But I think I've gone on long enough to kind of prove my point. But if you think Joe Biden is doing a great job as president, well, then you probably have really good company with Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, and Islamic terrorists around the world. I'm sure they believe that he's doing a great job. Me? Not so much. Well, there's my thoughts on it. You have a great day.